Hello everybody, welcome back to Waffles RC. In this video, we're going to get back to work on the hauler. I have a few ideas that I want to see if they can work and try to get this thing sitting on its own weight with axles. So before I show you the axles that I'm going to put on the new hauler, just wanted to give you a demonstration on the tow truck that I have here. Just want to do a quick demonstration of why I chose the axles that I'm going to run. So as you see, got it loaded up, the mud truck and the Toyota. Tow truck is powered up and it tows it all just fine. The biggest issue that this thing has is turning. So wheels are turned all the way. See how it just keeps pushing forward and barely turns, but it does do it. If I put it in reverse, it'll turn somewhat. Here's a better example. Wheels turned all the way. It does turn. You can see front wheel is just sliding. And then there's a tire that it runs into. So the reason why it does that is because that one's axles are locked, which means all the wheels spin at the same rate. But when you're turning, the outside wheel needs to spin faster than the inside wheel. When they're locked, it doesn't allow that, so it just wants to push right through it. I don't want that with this one because sometimes you have to make turns. That's why I went with these axles. These may look familiar to some of you. They're the same axles that are in the Traxxas. So the reason why I went with the Traxxas axles is because they have open diffs. Then you can run the cable inside of here to make it a locked diff. But when the diff isn't locked, then it's all open, which is going to assist this thing in turning, because also being 6-wheel drive, if they were all locked, this thing would never turn, especially with weight on the back. So I went with these. This one, the front will be a selectable locker, and this one will be a selectable locker. This one in the very back is going to stay open. The reason why that one looks weird is because I had to make new upper link mounts because they were down here, because I bought cheap axle housings and they sent the wrong one for the far rear axle. It's supposed to be like the front diff but turned around, and it wasn't. So I cut the ears off of it, the ones that it came with, flipped it upside down, made a new upper bracket. So the goal for today is going to be to get the axles mounted underneath the frame, get some temporary shocks until I get the actual ones that I'm going to run on this thing. Just make sure it all works, sits where it's supposed to, do all the links, and then get started on the bed. I've had a few out there ideas for the bed. Some of them are a little more extravagant and probably won't work with the tools that I have available to me, but later on down the road, can always try and upgrade it, because why leave everything the way that it's supposed to be? And now the sun comes out and lights up only this side of my face. There, is that better? You can see me now? Okay. But first, before we mount this axle under there, I want to get it centered in the wheel arch. Take our fancy pen, get it in the center, and hopefully straight. So I just put a line there, so that way I know that's where I want at ride height. That's where I want the center of the wheel to sit. I gotta do it again because it moved. So now I put 2 lines because the body moved. I have a general area where I want this axle to sit while it's at ride height, so that way the wheel is centered in the wheel well of the body. The back axles will be easy. I just need to center them and then put them wherever I want to. Okay, here all I did was make some shock towers. Not the prettiest things. It'll give me something to weld on, and that is where I want the shock location to be. other one for the other side. And you see I got some shocks on here. They're just mock-up. They're not the ones that I'm going to run on this truck, but they are the same length as the one I'm going to run on this truck. So now I'll quickly weld these on, let it cool down, and then start working on the links. And there's the shock mounts, just tacked on. I will round off the edges, make it look a little bit nicer. You don't really have to. It's going to be covered under the body. For me, I will round this. Once I mock everything up and know everything's good, then I'll final weld it right there. Fill everything in, grind it down, make it look nice and pretty. So I mounted up the shocks to the front diff and got the lower links on. So what I'm going to do is bolt these onto here. Get the axle hanging straight at what I think would be ride height. Then make some brackets on the underside of this for the lower links. Got the frame held up. Got the axle sitting about where it needs to be. This is my idea of what I want the ride height to be, and I'll be able to adjust these if I need to. Same with the upper. The track bar, I'm going to have to make that as well, or at least a mount for it, bring it down. But now I'm just going to make some brackets, weld in underneath this frame rail. Once I just do a quick mark on where I want those to sit based on where that is. There's the front axle hung. Got the track bar on there. Everything actually works. See, goes up and down. Everything's just tacked in. There's the upper link mount, because this one's got a track bar for the front. Just tacked on. Nothing's permanent right now. Got to make fine adjustments later, but there's the front end on. I don't have the internals inside this axle, but we can slap the body on, see what it looks like. There's with the body on it. So if you look straight up and down from center of this, center where the hub for where the center of the wheel is going to be, is right there to the center of the wheel well. So when turning, should clear the body. I'm not going to run a super big tire on this thing because it's going to be for towing. It's not going to be the ultimate rock crawling vehicle. It's just a vehicle that is going to tow all my RCs because, well, why not? And I'm lazy. So far, so good. Before I get started on anything, I like to joke around about not using a tape measure, but there are certain moments where a tape measure is good to use. Like trying to center up the front axle with the track bar. You can try to eyeball it all you want, but getting it absolutely perfectly center, I use the tape measure. I joke around about it, but it is a very useful tool. I'm just able to do most of it without it. But that, even I can't eyeball that. And I want it to look good, so I'm not going to just eyeball it. Now we're going to mock up the rear axles. These are the spare tires from the tow truck, but they're about the size, maybe a little bit bigger than what I actually plan on using. But I want to have that measurement for the gap, so that way the tires don't hit each other when the suspension's all moving. And I will be using the tape measure to try to center the axles before I make the links. Here's the middle axle. Got it working. As you can see, pinion angle stays relatively the same. It's never going to drop that far with the shocks that I'm going to put on it. Once again, still have to do a little bit of adjusting once it's all done. Still have to finish welding everything. It's all just tack welded in. Now I'll move on to the very back axle and hope I get that one correct as well. If anybody's sitting there wondering, wow, this guy really knows what he's doing. I have a basic understanding of how suspension systems work. Obviously, I used to build the big trucks as well, so I have the basic understanding. But in reality, when it comes to RC stuff, I'm just guessing. For the most part, taking my knowledge, but there's also the knowledge of Google. If you're trying to build one of these, and you're trying to see how the suspension systems are set up, or how they should be set up, just go onto Google and look at the model that you're trying to go after, or just a few models to give you some ideas. And then you can look at the pictures and adjust your building from there. I have no idea how a 6x6 suspension is supposed to go together. I've done all the other ones. Those are easy. You just have to deal with 2 axles. Now I'm dealing with 3. When I say that I'm hoping that I can get this all done correctly, it's just looking at Google, trying to make something my own, making all these tabs, and we'll see once it's all put together if it actually functions like it's supposed to. Now, once again, this thing is not going to be a crawler. It's going to be 6-wheel drive with lockers, but that's because it's going to be towing 3 RCs at one time. I want to have the traction. Don't think that if you don't know anything about suspension that you're not going to be able to do something like this. Just look at pictures, use them as a reference, and then you can create something just like this. And I don't mean pictures like this. This is funny to me, and it's been funny for a lot of people thinking that as well. But I just look on Google and coming up with my own stuff from there. And there's both the rears. So I know I've been skipping over everything, but I'm sure none of you guys just want to watch me cut metal, make stuff up as I go along. You just want to see the final product, but it all works. We'll see how it actually functions. I may have to do some adjusting. We got the axles on it. So now let's start working on the bed, because I need the bed done before I can put the shocks on, because I don't know where the bed is going to sit for the shocks. Here's a quick little look of it with the axles on it. I think that placement is perfect on the rears. And this thing's going to be so cool when it's done. They're not the fanciest tabs in the world. You just got to do whatever you can to get them to work. I'm going to round them off once I do the finish welding. Like, I'm going to try to make it look nicer, obviously. Sure does look good as a whole. So this is the trailer that I have right now. You can see it's a gooseneck. It's a good trailer. I can fit 2 RCs on it. But this is going to be my gauge of how wide to make the bed for the truck, because all the RCs fit on that. So I want them to do the same on that. Okay, I actually used the tape measure on the trailer, so I know exactly how wide to make this one. I think it's going to be quite wide. So after just measuring it, just so you guys can visualize it too. Oh, hold on, I gotta put this down. So there's a visualization for you. It's a good thing I'm running dualies on the back axles, because then it might actually look halfway decent. Alright, let's make the bed. 19 5/8. See? So not only when we are desperate, when we want stuff to look right. So I'll get rid of that, although it is funny. Okay, there's the bed. Sorry about falling over when it was doing time lapse. Got wires and stuff plugging the camera into charge. But there is the bed, and yes, I use the tape measure quite a lot. After seeing these fancy chrome axles, kind of want this thing to look really nice. And it's not going to be as much wider as I thought it would be, especially since I'm going to run dualies on the back axles, single on the front. But as a whole, I think sure does look pretty good. And for those who are still around after watching the tow truck, got an update on the Cadillac with all the lovely broken parts, all the broken gear in the portal, broken axle shaft. Well, I happen to have eggs, but a repair kit for AR44 axles. And it just so happens that the gears are the same gears for these weird one-off axles that broke immediately. That was the hardest part, was finding gears. Now I can make an axle shaft out of one of these, probably, which is what I'm going to do. Just make a new axle shaft and then change these gears out for the gears that came in this package. Now whether it's going to work correctly, still to be determined, but same teeth, same size, it's absolutely perfect. So the Cadillac will be up and going again. All right, let's see what it looks like with a truck on it. Look at that. Fits on there quite nicely. Yeah, the crawler does look bigger than the tow vehicle, but I do not care one bit. That looks really good. Alright guys, well that's going to be it for today since I'm out of welding wire. So, got the truck pretty far along. Got the axles hung, shocks and everything on the front. Temporary, I got other ones coming. Also, the way that I built this bed like this is essentially how I built the trailer too. So, realistically, you could do something like that. Just put trailer axles on it, and bam, you got yourself a trailer. I'm still going to build another trailer for this thing because, well, it's only 3 feet long. Why not have another 4-foot trailer on top of that? So thank you everybody again for watching. I hope you enjoyed it. We're going to keep going with this thing and hopefully make some real progress. Maybe get wheels and tires on it. Kind of all depends on if I can afford it or if they come in or whatever the magic may be. Still got to do a final weld on this thing. So this is nowhere near done. Got a lot more stuff I want to get done on this thing. It's going to be a fun little truck when it's all done. And okay, it's not very little, but you know what I'm saying. Thank you everybody.